Have you ever just stopped and thought about how any of this works? I mean, our massive global societies. How is it that millions, even billions, of people who've never met can somehow manage to cooperate? To figure that out, we've got to look back in time. Picture this. You're in a marketplace in medieval Samarkand. It's chaos, but it's working. You've got Syrian merchants haggling over these beautiful Chinese silks, while tribesmen from Africa look on. And money, coins from kings you've never even heard of, is just flowing from hand to hand. It's this incredible mix of cultures, all playing by some invisible set of rules.
Or how about this? Kublai Khan's army getting ready to invade Japan. You've got Mongolian horsemen right next to Chinese soldiers, Korean troops, and even a few European adventurers trading stories. All these different people from totally different worlds, all about to follow the orders of one single guy.
And at the very same time, halfway across the world, a whole different kind of cooperation is happening in Mecca. Imagine being a pilgrim there in 1300. You're surrounded by people from Mesopotamia, Turkish nomads, even nobles from the Mali kingdom in Africa, their gold just gleaming. All of them drawn to one single spot on the map.
So, this all leads to the big question, right? The central puzzle. How is any of this possible? What kind of force is so powerful that it can make millions of total strangers trust each other, follow the same rules, and work together?
Well, the answer is one of the most powerful inventions in all of human history: religion. See, the thing about our social orders, our laws, our nations, our money, is that they're just stories we tell ourselves, and that makes them super fragile. Religion comes in and gives these stories a superhuman guarantee. It makes them feel absolute, like they were handed down from on high and you just can't question them.
Okay, so what are we really talking about when we say religion? For this explainer, let's use a simple definition. It's a system of human norms and values that's built on a belief in a superhuman order. Now, what's fascinating about this definition is what it leaves out.
It really just boils down into two things. First, you have to believe in an order that's superhuman, meaning people didn't just make it up. You know, we all know humans invented the rules of football. That's why it's not a religion. And second, that order has to give us binding rules. It has to tell us how to act. Just believing in ghosts, for example, isn't a religion if it doesn't actually dictate how you should live your life. So, how did this all get started? Well, as human societies got bigger and more complicated, their religions had to scale up too. They had to evolve to glue together bigger and bigger groups of people.
Way back when we were in small hunter-gatherer groups, animism did the trick. You know, local spirits for local tribes. But then the agricultural revolution happened, and suddenly we have kingdoms and massive trade networks. We needed bigger gods for that, which gave us polytheism, a whole pantheon of gods to manage everything. And then finally, as empires started trying to unite the entire world, we get the rise of monotheism, the belief in one single universal God for everyone.
Now, this jump from many gods to just one god, it was a massive shift in how we think. Polytheism is actually pretty open-minded. If you believe in lots of gods, it's no big deal to accept that another culture has their own gods who are also powerful. But monotheism, that tends to be exclusive. If there's only one true god, then by definition, everyone else's gods have to be fake. And that idea has historically led to a much more aggressive, fanatical approach.
And the history here is pretty stark. The source material points out that over 300 years, the polytheistic Romans killed, at most, a few thousand Christians. But in the 1500 years after that, Christians killed millions of other Christians just because they disagreed on how to interpret God's love.
But wait, the story doesn't end there. In fact, this is where things get really, really interesting because we're about to challenge the whole idea of what a religion even is. Think about that superhuman order we defined earlier. Does it have to be a god? What if the universal laws that run the show aren't divine commands at all, but are just natural laws of the universe?
And that's the radical idea behind religions like Buddhism. The Buddha taught the suffering isn't caused by some angry god or just bad luck. No, it comes from a natural law, the cravings and patterns inside our own minds. So the way to find peace isn't to pray to a deity, it's to understand this internal, natural system. And here's the key takeaway. You can have a full-fledged religion with absolutely no gods.
The second you accept that a religion doesn't need a god, you start to realize something incredible. Our modern world isn't secular, not at all. It's actually dominated by powerful, new, natural law religions. We just have a different name for them: ideologies.
Just look at this breakdown. Take communism. It's officially atheist, right? But it functions exactly like a traditional religion. It's got its holy book, Das Kapital. It has its prophets, Marx and Lenin. It has holidays like May Day, and even different sects and heresies like Trotskyism. And it called for holy wars, a world revolution that its most devout followers were willing to die for.
So, what's the dominant religion of our time? It's humanism, basically the worship of humanity itself. But just like all the great religions before it, it's splintered into competing sects. The three big ones are liberal humanism, which worships the individual, social humanism, which worships the collective, and evolutionary humanism, which worships the species.
Let's break that down. For liberal humanists, the most sacred thing is the individual, which gives us the idea of human rights. For social humanists, what's sacred is humanity as a collective, so their ultimate goal is equality for everyone. And for evolutionary humanists, like the Nazis, humanity isn't fixed. It's a species that can either evolve into a Superman or degenerate into a subhuman.
Now, for the last 70-odd years, liberal humanism has pretty much been the world's dominant faith. But today, it's facing a massive crisis. And this time, the threat isn't coming from a rival ideology. It's coming from the science lab.
Think about it. Our entire legal system, our whole political world, is built on one foundational belief, that every single one of us has a sacred, unchanging inner self, a soul, if you want to call it that. This is the bedrock of everything we believe about individual freedom and human rights.
But here's the problem. For the last 2 centuries, science has been taking a sledgehammer to that foundation. Biologists and neuroscientists have looked deep inside the human brain, inside our genes, and you know what they found? No soul. What they find are hormones, genes, and synapses all firing away according to biochemical algorithms, just like in any other animal.
So that leaves us with a pretty massive question, doesn't it? Liberalism managed to survive the death of God, but can it survive the death of the soul? If the values we hold most dear are all based on a story that science is now telling us is false, what comes next? What's going to be the next superhuman glue that holds us all together?